Brian Provinciano wrote that, and he's now working on Retro City Rampage.
Yeah,
but
still working on Retro City Rampage.
I mean, I remember when when I first met him, and I started helping out on Retro City. I told him, my first encounter with you, was playing Leisure Suit Larry at a bar.
That's awesome.
And being very proud of the fact that I just felt like such an experienced hacker.
I
was playing Leisure Suit Larry in my hand in a bar.
I used that as well. I downloaded that. I had a Game Boy Advance flash cart, and I put that on there. Yep. And I think I got to a point where I couldn't play it anymore because just something that the emulator didn't do.
Yep. You couldn't. I don't think you could beat any of the games.
No.
It didn't matter.
I think I played Leisure Suit
I'm playing
Larry
Leisure Suit Larry with a D-pad.
That was pretty damn cool. Yeah, I agree.
So Christian, why don't you share a fun anecdote? Chris has talked about his launch experience. Frank's talked about his hacking experience. How about yourself? What's your favorite GBA memory?
I'm trying to think, actually, this is kind of funny. So I'll just quickly say, I got laid off from Gamers.com right before the before the system came out. That's fond. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
So
it's better than losing your job.
I was living with Shane Bettenhausen, and John Riccardi had just moved to Japan. So he bought us launch GBAs and mailed them to us. So I was it was a really, I paid for it, but it was a really nice, I don't know, it was just a really nice gesture. You know what I mean? Just, help me out with that. And then, so that was really neat.
But I guess at the time you were kind of automatically a freelancer. So it's I have a leg up now. I have a GBA.
But what was really fun, actually, this is really weird. So my parents, I moved to California in 2000, and I always go home to visit my parents, and I don't have my crap. So portable games kind of always becomes sort of the part of the fabric of my visits home. And none of my old friends really live near my parents anymore either. So I have really fond memories of playing Mega Man Battle Network. And also Super Mario World is one of my top favorite games ever. So even though I played the crap out of it, and I mean the crap out of it on the Super Nintendo, when they announced it for the GBA, I was so excited that I knew I was going to be coming home for Christmas soon. It came out in fall in Japan, but it wasn't coming out till later in America. So I'm I really need the Japanese version, and I need it before Christmas. But it was going to be really impossible for me to get it from an importer or whatever. So I actually went to the trouble to. My parents were still living in New Jersey. I got John to buy it in Tokyo. I met John with Anna Kipnis and Anthony Parisi at the mall in New Jersey, and we had a physical handoff of Super Mario World for GBA and dinner. And then I drove an hour or more to do that as well.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of a fun.
And was it a good Christmas?
It saved Christmas.
All right.
I actually flew to Japan to get Super Mario World. Well, not really. It was kind of a byproduct of my going to Japan for the first time. But yeah, to me, the GBA, I associate it with the period of greatest upheavals in my life. I lived in Texas for 20 years and finally decided I have to get the hell out of here. And I decided that right at the time that the GBA launched in Japan. So I imported a system and a couple of games and was well, this will keep me occupied and entertained while I, settle down in New York and find work and so on and so forth. And it ended up keeping me entertained while I bounced around looking for work for several months and finally decided, oh, well, no one here wants to hire me because I'm just some yokel from Texas that doesn't have any experience. So I ended up, landing in Michigan for a while and then eventually moving out here to work at 1UP. And through all of that, the GBA is kind of the system that kept me going. Through really good times and through some really, really bad times, I remember, the day after or the day of September 11th, 2001, to deal with all the things that were going on, it was just kind of overwhelming. So I spent a lot of time playing Klonoa Empire of Dreams because it was something kind of comforting that I could go to and focus on. But also I had a really bad breakup, and at the same time, Castlevania.
Wait, on September the 11th?
No, several years later.
Literally the same time.
The weekend that Aria of Sorrow came out. So I just poured myself into Aria of Sorrow for a few days, and
it's
that
weird.
Kind of distracted me.
This is sort of tangential, but yeah, when I had my last really bad breakup, I replayed Mega Man 3. It's I don't know.
Video games are a good escape when you're dealing with really, really, really shitty life stuff. But yeah, the GBA, I feel like I kind of dismiss it now because the DS has been such a great system and such a just there's so much. I mean, I look at my DS collection, and I'm not someone who collects a ton of games, but I just collect, the games I want to play and to keep. And my DS collection is 2 shelves.
Well, I remember, I think think you're right, and I think that the DS sort of really overshadowed the GBA because I really loved the GBA at the time.
The GBA had a really short lifespan.
Yeah,
I mean, from GBA launch to DS launch was like 3 years.
Sort of go back to what that one caller was saying is like, is it a Super Nintendo in your hands, or sort of the discussion we had. And I remember thinking, prior to its release when it came out of Space World and everything, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be Super Nintendo in your hands. It's going to be fucking awesome. And then sort of the reality was that it was good, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And then when the DS came out and it was kind of almost like a PS1 in your hands, and it had all of the sort of like really creative, like, like talking about Aria of Sorrow, taking them long to get to that. Aria of Sorrow wasn't like as deep and detailed as Symphony of the Night, and Dawn of Sorrow was. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it sort of the DS sort of did sort of overshadow the GBA, but I have a lot of really good memories. I have in a weird way. I think I have better memories of the GBA than the DS. And looking back,
for me, the DS has been work, and I've had a lot of great work time with it. But it has been, like what I've done for work. Whereas GBA was, an escape. It was something to turn to when I needed, some escapism. Yeah, and, at the same time, it was also when I got to 1UP, like no one wanted to write about portable games because who cares about